Go ahead, Chris.
All right. All right, well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for attending VVM's March Virtual Community Night. It's hard to believe it's been a full year since the world changed and prevented us all from getting together in person. But a decline in cases combined with more and more people getting vaccinated, the governor is continually reassessing the group meeting protocols, and we have our fingers crossed that we will be able to see everyone in a live setting very soon. Last month, we celebrated Black History Month with a fantastic panel and keynote speaker and moderator, Mr. Thomas. It was not only one of our most highly attended community nights, but it really acted as a springboard for VVM to collaborate with other entities supporting the Black and Brown entrepreneurial communities. Tonight, we celebrate Women's History Month, again, by lining up a great panel and having an esteemed keynote speaker in Dr. Shakina Williams. Dr. Williams is a friend and classmate of mine from Babson College who went on to complete her MBA and her PhD. Currently, she's the Director of Global Initiatives for Babson's Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership. She grew up in Springfield, lives in Western Mass, and is passionate about entrepreneurship, particularly as it relates to women and minorities. But due to a scheduling conflict, we are switching the order of our lineup to allow her a little bit more time to attend. And so we will start with our panel discussion first, and then have Dr. Williams give the keynote speech at the end. One point I want to emphasize for everyone on this call: VVM supports all entrepreneurs, but we are fully cognizant that actions speak louder than words. And as much as we have acknowledged and celebrated Black and women entrepreneurs during these past 2 months, VVM refuses to stop the celebration just because the calendar flips to the next month. Our recent and upcoming collaborations with the First Ladies of Poverty Foundation, Black and Brown Wall Street, E4All, Berkshire Bank, the City of Springfield, and WIT, Women Innovators and Trailblazers, among others, that will continually showcase our efforts to support these communities throughout the year. If anyone would like to learn more about these collaborations and how you might be able to assist, please reach out to Hope. So with that, I will pass along to Hope, who will be leading tonight's discussion.
Thank you, Chris. I just have a couple of announcements. First, I just wanted to say thank you all for being here. Very, very excited for this panel and for our discussion celebrating women in entrepreneurship. It is a conversation that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm very looking forward to our panel discussion and having an opportunity to be able to celebrate all of our wonderful entrepreneurs. Just a few quick announcements here. If you aren't already following us on social media or getting our newsletter, please feel free to reach out to me if you need any assistance with this. We'd love to hear from you. So my email, Chris's email is there, hope@valleyventurementors.org. I'd love to connect with you and figure out how you can continue to collaborate. We can continue to collaborate to help support entrepreneurs. If you're looking to start a business also, please feel free to reach out. And we can help you connect with other programs that VVM has to offer. One of these programs is the Entrepreneurial Roundtable that I host. It's a peer-led group that happens every Tuesday. This is from 5 to 6 on Zoom. So I will put the registration link to this in the chat later, and I will also share my slides so that you have an opportunity to be able to access this. But this is just a weekly group that's open to entrepreneurs in all stages, also mentors, just to be able to have a place to come brainstorm your challenges, be able to celebrate successes, network and connect with other people, and be able to push your business forward. Here, like I said, I'll share the slides and you'll be able to access the link for the roundtable as well as for community night. And thank you. I just also wanted to mention
Hope you went on mute.
I'm not sure how that happened. It said the host muted me. I thought I was the host of this meeting, so I'm just not sure. Anyway, I'm unmuted now, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to mention WIT is a great organization that we're happy to partner with. Women innovators and trailblazers, igniting a women-led economy. If you're interested in learning more about WIT, you can visit their website, witrocks.org. You can also reach out to me. This is a great organization that supports and matches up women in entrepreneurship and business with other women. And so it's a fantastic program. We're very happy to be able to collaborate and work with WIT. And now I want to just pass it over to my good friend and Carly Forcade, who is the director of the Collegiate Summer Venture Program, so that she can talk about our upcoming opportunity. Carly.
Thank you, Hope, and thank you, Hope and Chris, for hosting this evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carly Forcade. I'm the program manager for the VVM Center for Entrepreneurship and the program director for the Collegiate Summer Venture Program, which is going into its third iteration this summer. We're thrilled to be running this online and intensive summer accelerator program for student entrepreneurs from any of the local 14 colleges and universities. In addition, we work with alums within the last decade, again, within any of those 14 colleges and universities in the region. Its applications for this are open right now. So if you have students or if you're an entrepreneur yourself, please apply or share this with people in your network, because we would love to see you this summer. Again, it's going to be running online, but again, we still have all of the resources that we usually do. We have entrepreneurs and residents joining us, the mentors that are going to be joining us for this summer. And it's a phenomenal opportunity really to spend a whole summer working on a venture, with hopefully without other distractions along the way as well. I'm going to pop some information into the chat, but it's been a phenomenal collaboration with VVM and the VVM Center for Entrepreneurship going into our third iteration of this program this year. Thank you, Hope, for pulling this up. So we have application information here. We'll pop it into the chat. Please reach out to Hope Rye if you have any questions regarding this program. And next, I'm actually going to turn it over to the Executive Director of the VVM Center for Entrepreneurship, Gregory Thomas, for a quick introduction as well.
Just quickly, and two things, Carly. We're looking for participants for the CSVP, participants, but also for entrepreneurs and residents and mentors. People looking to support the entrepreneurship process. Chris, Hope, and Carly and I are excited to engage with you on that. And then just last, very quickly, the first week of April, on April 7th, the Innovation Challenge, the final, will kick off. We've got 5 exciting teams from sustainability with recycling to a high tech with encapsulation technology. And the 5 teams I think are exciting. They're going to be competing for $65,000. The competition will be open to come and see them pitch, to witness some of the judging process and the questions being asked. And it should be an exciting event. There may be some special guests there from some of the things that have started to trend over this pandemic. And so please come join us for the excitement. And Carly will put a link in the chat. Thank you for the time for this.
Hope, can you send the slides to everybody who registered?
Yes.
So I don't have to try and write down these long,
Absolutely.
gobbledygook, URLs. Thanks.
Absolutely. And it's come to my attention that for some reason, I'm not sure that people can chat to everybody, that their chat is only coming to me. And so I'm not entirely sure. It says that participants can chat. So I'm not really sure exactly what the deal is with that, but I will make sure to send out to all of the people who were here, the slides, as well as any of the chat that came to me in which you introduced yourself or sent links or anything along those lines. I'm sorry about that. That usually doesn't happen. I'm not really sure why that's happening. Thank you, Gregory. Thank you, Carly. Okay, and so I just, wanted to say thank you again so much to our Rockstar panel for coming and being here with us today to celebrate and to share some of our experiences as women in entrepreneurship, the good, the bad, and the even better. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and I'm gonna pull up and pin my panel, my wonderful, beautiful panel. Thank you again for being here. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to spotlight you all. Spotlighted. And then, Chris, do you see a Shayla here? And we had Shayla Kuhn as well from Hot Oven Cookies, but I'm not sure. So maybe she'll pop in, but if she does pop in, just let me know. All right. Hi, ladies. How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Doing well. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm so excited. I'm just going to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you work on, your venture or ventures, and please make sure to mention any upcoming opportunities that you have, programs, events. So maybe I'll start one by one. Natasha, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Natasha Zena, and I am the co-founder of lionessmagazine.com, which is the first online news company for female entrepreneurs. I'm also a big fan of VVM. I'm an alum of the mentorship program and the accelerator. I think I'm in the 2016 class of the accelerator. And Lioness was acquired last summer, which was really exciting for us. We were acquired by Innovation Women in Boston. I actually relocated. I'm out here in the DC area now. And I'm working now in international development for a social enterprise. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Savannah, would you like to go next?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. So glad to be here. My name is Savannah Taylor. I am a recent graduate of Syracuse University. I graduated a year ago, to say. In my sophomore year, I started something called the Silhouette Brand, which is an opportunity to connect young students of color on my campus to different opportunities for networking, personal development, entertainment, art, just a whole sort of melting pot of opportunities. And now I've been able to transform that into an event I'm proud to call Fieldfest, which is taking place next month, April 24th to the 25th, which is the opportunity for young people in the city of Springfield, specifically young Black and Brown youth, to take part in different networking opportunities, be exposed to different fields in the STEM field, entrepreneurship as well. I'm really fortunate to have one of the co-founders of the well-known brand FUBU be participating, as well as some other entrepreneurs in that panel on mental health, sexual wellness, goal setting. It's a little bit of something for everyone, just to really inspire and spark innovation for young people in the city of Springfield. Aside from that venture, I am a digital media associate at the Springfield Museums, and I do part-time social media work and editorial writing for Ebony Magazine. So thank you so much, Hope, for this opportunity. I'm just so excited to talk with everyone and share and just really be inspired. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be sharing in the one of the upcoming newsletters of the information for Fieldfest. So please make sure that you sign up for that. It sounds like a wonderful event. I'm so excited. Ashley, would you like to go next?
Yes, Natasha, Savannah, I'm so excited to meet both of you. This is going to be so much fun. My name is Ashley Olafsen, and I started my first business super unintentionally back in 2013 when I started giving workshops and eventually summer programs to middle school and high school age girls on self-esteem and leadership. I've built a couple other businesses since then, and I went to UMass Amherst and did a lot with the pitch competitions there, which is how Hope and I connected. And now I help others start businesses. So I'm a startup coach at iFund Women, and we are the go-to funding marketplace for women-owned businesses and the people who want to support them. We help female founders with access to capital through crowdfunding and grants and the strategy on how to do it. We also provide coaching and community. So we have a Slack channel with about 9,000 female founders, as well as an iFund Women of Color community, which is additional community for women of color. So if you need resources, funding, coaching, community, I am your go-to girl.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Also, I think I fixed the chat problem. So test it out. I think you should be able to. I'm sorry, I had the wrong check clicked. So anyway, I also apologize for my background noise. My neighborhood and my children are a little bit rowdy, so please bear with me. All right, great. So the first question that I would love to ask all of you is kind of like, what drew you to entrepreneurship in the first place? I think, you know, a lot of you kind of mentioned this a little bit, kind of how you started off, but what drew you to entrepreneurship and how did you begin your entrepreneurial journey? Anybody can kind of hop in if you have.
I can kick it off. For me, I was an accidental entrepreneur. I'm a journalist by trade, and I was perfectly fine and happy with doing that. And then I had started doing some communications work on the side, and I'll make this really brief. And what ended up happening was, just by accident, started working with a lot of women's conferences. And I noticed whenever these women got together at the conferences, right, it was kind of like, well, how do you figure out MailChimp? And, you know, I try to get access to capital, just all these different things that I was really naive about. I was like, why don't you just read Fast Company, you know? And a few of them were like, well, we do, but it's geared towards guys. And I had never noticed that before. And I was like, let me go look. And so there's tons of publications for women in business. But if you were a woman who wanted to launch a high growth startup, there's no media company for you. And I was crazy enough to think I could do that, you know? So I started kind of playing around with some prototypes, and then a gentleman out in Boston actually told me about VVM and Paul Silva and this idea that he had. And I went and I checked out a mentoring night and felt like, oh, these are my people. They kind of get what I'm talking about. And, you know, I always use the expression ovaries. It allowed me to get my ovaries up to like, oh, okay, maybe this is something. And just kind of took the leap and left my job and started rocking and rolling with it.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody else want to add to this question?
Savannah, do you want to go?
No, you can go. It's okay.
Thanks. So yeah, I mean, similar to Natasha, it was super accidental for me as well. I just saw a problem. All my friends were struggling immensely with their self-esteem and mental health. And I was like, why aren't teachers talking about this? Why isn't everybody talking about this? And so I decided to do something. Again, I gave one workshop first. I didn't expect it to turn into a business or summer programs or anything else. I just intended to give one workshop. And then it was kind of nice because we were able to grow it without a lot of pressure to create something great. It was just, we were going and ideating. And I think, you know, something that has really driven me to entrepreneurship is, I think it's a really accessible and inaccessible in a lot of ways, but I think that it's somewhat of an accessible way to create social change. I was a political science double major in college and thought that I really wanted to go into policy to kind of create some of the conversation and changes that I wanted to see. But I think that with entrepreneurship, you're really a sole decision maker in a lot of ways. And so you can kind of bring ideas that you have to life quicker. With that, obviously, there's still a lot of barriers and inequities, but I do think that compared to politics, I feel that I am more empowered to make the kind of changes that I want to make through entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Ashley. Savannah, you want to jump in?
Yeah, so similar to what my fellow panelists have said, really sort of stumbled upon entrepreneurship accidentally. However, I was definitely exposed to it at a very young age. My father grew up in Springfield, Mass. As well, and he started his first business at the age of 16. So it's kind of the entrepreneurial spirit has definitely been something that he's passed on to me, car dealerships, restaurants, all sorts of things, you name it. And I remember attending a entrepreneurship summer camp, I think at 6, when they used to have those college for kids sort of things. And I really enjoyed that, but I never really thought it was something that I can do. I think the thought of starting my own platform or business was super intimidating. And then when I got older and I noticed different needs, similar to you, Ashley, noticed, you know, what's something that people aren't talking about. And I noticed there was a lack of access to just opportunity, especially amongst young people and young people of color in the Springfield area. And I tried to think about what are some ways I can change that while also educating and empowering and exposing these young people to these resources. So I did some deep thinking and really have been able to transform and find my voice through entrepreneurship and hopefully helping people along the way. So that's sort of my introduction to entrepreneurship.
Thank you so much. I think it's so interesting. It was not intentional that all of our entrepreneurs on this panel were accidental entrepreneurs, but I think that really, it says something really interesting about entrepreneurship in general and how so many of us find ourselves in this field, whether we've, uncovered a problem or we're monetizing a skill or a passion or an interest. That entrepreneurship is so beautiful in that way. I also am an accidental entrepreneur. And so it's, I found a lot that I resonated with in all of your stories. Okay, so I would love to go into next, like, what are some of, I think we think a lot about the challenges, maybe the challenges of being a woman in entrepreneurship, but I would love to, on the flip side, we're going to get there, but I would love to talk about what are some of the advantages of being a woman in entrepreneurship. I love to think about maybe how we as women are empowered in lots of ways to be able to build compassionate businesses. So I'd just love to hear from you on maybe what are some advantages of being a woman in entrepreneurship.
I can share something. So at iFund Women, where I work, there's a huge just trend in entrepreneurship right now to fund women-owned businesses. It's a good PR move, speaking super bluntly. And at iFund Women, we are partnering with companies like Visa and American Express, and we have so many companies kind of in the pipeline that we're hoping to be partnered with within this upcoming year. And so I think that like something positive is how many companies right now are trying to do good PR and are giving money to iFund Women and women-owned businesses and women who are starting initiatives. So I think that that's a huge positive, and I've definitely benefited off of that. Back in 2019, I won $10,000 from Victoria's Secret Pink. And so that's a campaign that they're doing. And they're actually running the campaign for the third year in a row right now to give, I think, like $25,000 grants to 10 women. So I think that it's trendy. That being stated, women as a whole received like 2.3 or 2.9% of the whole venture capital pie last year, and it's even less for Black and Latinx women. So the statistics aren't great, but that's a good thing right now.
Thank you, Ashley. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share on this? Savannah, why don't you go, and then Natasha, you can.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, it's absolutely trendy right now, for woman-owned businesses, but it's also pretty cool, I would say. I'm super big on sisterhood and fellowship as well, and I think that's been something that I've been able to experience being a woman and starting my own venture. Even when there's opportunities or times where I might step into a room and it's kind of like, well, don't you think that's kind of a big undertaking? But, it's a sense of power, and it's a sense of that sense of ownership and knowing that you're a woman. And even though women have historically been, disenfranchised, and knowing that you're able to, pull up the reins and do what you have to do and really have that sense of accomplishment, but then find that empowerment through other women and individuals who identify as being women. I think that's just super empowering, and it's just really great. And that's really, I think, propelled me as I go about this venture as well. But yeah, just really a sense of empowerment and just sisterhood has been really great.
Thank you, Savannah.
Yeah, I agree with everything that they said. The only couple things that I would add is I agree, women, we're very resourceful and we're excellent storytellers, and that's why women tend to do really well in crowdfunding, which Ashley, I'm sure, knows. We're really good at that. The other piece too, I think, and I don't remember the actual number, but there's some stats that came out around 2019 that showed women do better, they make better use of investment dollars, we tend to, than men do, right? And especially, I want to say, if it's a tech company, there's something that's like they get like 3 times the investment ROI on money that's given to them. So we're really good with the dollars when we get them, but also because we know we trouble with getting capital, we know how to stretch a dollar, right? So yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I totally agree. I think that I loved hearing all of your opinions on this question because I agree with them and I hadn't thought of them or considered them. And I think as a woman, sometimes we are used to juggling and balancing a lot of plates and a lot of roles. And that is a skill set that is critical in entrepreneurship. And so I think that really comes to play, being able to wear all the hats, especially when you're starting out and thinking about, I am my chief marketing officer, I am my CEO and my financial officer, and I have to balance all of those things. And so being able to do that is such a skill. And I think something that we as women often are pretty good at.
I
Okay,
do
on the
just want to
flip.
say, I also encourage women not to do that. When
Yeah.
guys want to launch a startup, they think, who the heck can I go get to do X, Y, or Z? And they don't try to wear all the hats, which helps them scale faster. So
Yeah. No, I think that there's definitely something to be said for not wearing all of the hats and making sure that you can delegate the hats that you need to delegate. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point. I would love to hear just briefly on some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur, a woman in entrepreneurship. I'm sorry, one second, my son. This is one of my challenges.
Yeah, I think it goes back to something I previously mentioned just about sometimes there are the stares or the looks or when people kind of question your motives or your capabilities. I know that's something that I've experienced, especially identifying as a Black woman. But again, it's kind of that duality where even if that is a challenge or it's considered to be a challenge or it's detrimental to your growth, it's also something that I feel like as a woman, I'm able to find power in. But yeah, I think it's really just the false assumptions that women are either too emotional or, it's just a huge undertaking, super chauvinistic, but, you find power in it. And sometimes that's what propels you to go forward and really disband those barriers that other people set.
Thank you, Savannah.
I think something that I notice is just there's a huge confidence gap. And I think that it can be really intimidating to put yourself out there and open yourself up for feedback. I know, like I just received a lot of feedback when I was in high school doing, my summer programs for girls. And it was very challenging because I wasn't doing something that was anti-man. It was like something that was just pro-female. And so that was kind of challenging to navigate. But I would also say with that, like I had a male business partner for my second venture, and it was really interesting because he just had more confidence and he would really push me outside of my comfort zone in ways that were really powerful. Tom, my business partner, was the one who pushed us to do pitch competitions, and we ended up being really good at it and winning a lot of money. And that is something that I just never would have thought to have done myself because it seemed so intimidating and so like, I don't know how to do that. I've never seen anybody do that before, but it was really, really valuable and really fascinating to have a male business partner. And I'm pretty confident. Like I've done confidence workshops for 8 years, but it was still interesting to kind of notice just the way that we were approaching and how I would sometimes be more cautious. And Tom was amazing and more courageous in a lot of ways and pushed me out of my comfort zone, which was very, very helpful.
Thank you for sharing that, Ashley. Go ahead, Natasha.
Yeah. So women are facing a lot of challenges, and I learned that the more that we really started to build Lioness, because initially I started Lioness because it was like, women entrepreneurs have trouble getting ink, right? They have a visibility issue. But obviously there's this access to capital issue. I mean, and this is little stuff like, and I think it was Harvard who did a report on this, but we have experienced this as well. You can see the difference in pitch feedback sometimes, and especially if you're an entrepreneur of color. Sometimes you get a lot of "that was good," and not any detailed thing. It's like, I want to perfect this damn thing. I want to know how to move it forward. I don't want to hear it's good. Tell me what's wrong with it. You don't always get that. The other thing that I think it was like in 2018, we ended up putting out this white paper called "How to Close the Gender Gap." and I recommend everybody read it. It took us a long time. We aggregated a lot of data, and a lot of data that people didn't have on female entrepreneurs at the time. And so one of the things that came out of there was another female entrepreneur named Catherine Finney. She founded Digital Undivided, and they did this really in-depth study on Black female founders. And it sounds crazy, but in like 2018, only 36 Black women had ever raised $1 million. Like that, 36 out of the entire United States, that's nuts. And when they did do fundraising outside of you know, venture capital dollars, they raised something like 36,000 to a failed white male startup where he was able to raise 1 million, you know, like, so that's crazy. Women are trying to build these startups and scale them on something like $36,000, you know? So there's a lot of challenges, and I think unconscious bias that women face. That Harvard study that I was telling you about, which is it's referenced in our white paper, they did an experiment and they sent women out to pitch a startup and men out to pitch a startup using the same exact language, same exact pitch deck. And like 70% of the men got the funding, you know? So obviously there's something there unconsciously because it's the same startup, right? So, but to Ashley's point, I think things are starting to change. And more importantly, people are just starting to talk about it. Nobody was even talking about it 5 years ago, you know? So that's a big move in the right direction.
Thank you all so much for sharing. Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you all said. It's so great. I'm so happy and thankful for all of you being here and sharing your thoughts and experiences because it's such an important conversation. Okay, so what words of encouragement do you have for people that are starting off on an entrepreneurial path?
I think words of encouragement that I can offer is to first acknowledge that it's super vulnerable and scary to start something. Especially, I think a lot of times I see female founders who are starting something because they're really invested in it, and then they are putting extra pressure on it, understandably. So I think like to acknowledge that it is, it can be emotional, and that's okay. And also just that there's so many resources. Like seriously, I find Women is a really great resource for funding, obviously, and for coaching and for community, but we're not the only amazing resource out there. And you know, there's both local resources within our communities, as well as much more. So lean on resources.
I would say, and I think something that my dad really instilled in me is really not being afraid to fail. And failure isn't a bad thing. I know a lot of times as women, and I know growing up, like perfection was really, you know, this thing that you strive for. You have to get as close to perfect as possible, or at least when you're starting something, you really want to, you know, hit the mark as much as possible. But sometimes you're not going to, sometimes you're going to miss the mark, and sometimes you're definitely going to fail. I know, especially from my own experience with starting the Fieldfest brand, it took a while, especially thinking about scaling and social media and communications rollouts and what are we actually being able to monetize, like all of these things. And it took a long time to realize. But out of that failure, we were really able to notice the strengths and the weaknesses, and now have a super great team that we failed together, but we learned from it. And then just being open to learning from those failures and being consistent and moving forward. When you do have those setbacks, and it's not a bad thing, it's not a scary thing, but you have to keep moving and not really remain stagnant. So that's what I would say. Just don't be afraid to fail, and always just keep pushing forward and moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with those two. Mine is freaking get your money, like chase your money. I would talk to so many female founders, and I know that we're passionate about whatever our mission is, and that's really good, right? If you're launching a nonprofit or B Corp, or maybe it's something that you care about. But if it's not you, there has to be somebody on your team that's like, I'm here to get the money, you know? Because in order to do all that really good, feel good work, you need the money. And I think you have to have somebody on your team that's out there to get it. Like that is so crucial. And I don't I don't always meet tons of women who talk about that up front, unless it's a woman who's like in a tech space, right? If you're a non-technical founder, you're usually like focused on some mission or something like that. And I'm like, no, there has to be somebody on your team chasing the cash. And then I totally agree with what Savannah said about you have to not be, if you're gonna fail fast so you can figure out what's not working so you can get to what is working. The best advice I ever got was from Paul Silva, who co-founded VVM. On the last day when I was packing up my desk, I was like, I can't believe I'm leaving my job to go do this. Like, what? That is crazy. And I called him from my desk and I'm like, oh, I'm terrified, And he was like, well, Natasha, what are you gonna do if you fail? And I was like, get a job. He was like, exactly. And I was like, right. And I got off and I went about my business. So don't be afraid to fail.
All great advice. Thank you very much. And then if you have questions for our panel, you can put them in the chat. I know Heather had mentioned, Savannah, what your business is. So maybe you could just real quick address that and then I'll ask the next question.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name of my business is called The Silhouette Brand. It's a platform essentially to expose young people, young Black and Brown folks to opportunities with the intent to empower them and empower their experience while also educating them with the hope to really uplift and inspire and hopefully spark innovation from the resources that they're receiving. So I mentioned earlier that we have an event coming up called Fieldfest with these same missions in mind to really just provide a plethora of resources both locally and nationally. I'll drop the link to our website and to our social media now, so you can check it out. But hopefully that helps and gives a little bit more insight. Thank you.
Thank you, Savannah. And yes, you should be able to do that now because I have fixed our chat problem. Okay, and then I guess these, I have two last questions and I want to make sure that I give Dr. Williams enough time for her speech. But the two questions that I have, and I guess you could either choose to answer both, they're kind of related, is what words of advice do you have for young women entering the workforce or considering starting a business? And then the other one is, what is one thing that you learned the hard way that you wish that somebody maybe had told you earlier or that you had learned sooner? Feel free to answer both or either.
I have definitely some advice for someone who is considering starting a business. I think that sometimes it can seem like it's all or nothing, but actually you should start slowly, build your proof of concept. Doing a crowdfunding campaign, I know I keep talking about iPhone Women, but really doing a crowdfunding campaign is a great way to build your proof of concept, get some initial capital, build your beta user list or whatever you're doing, get some pre-sales. And then once you get proof of concept, continue working at it, continue developing your sales strategy, your community. Once you're in a comfortable enough position, then, consider leaving. But I think that entrepreneurship is already pretty risky. And I would say that you can take, there's a lot of ways to build your proof of concept and make sure that you're going to be setting yourself up in a good position.
I'll hop in. When it comes to my advice for a young woman entering the workforce, network your butt off. I want to say one of the best skills I got from journalism was the ability to connect and contact people and not be afraid if they hung up in my face, I feel like that has taken me further than anything by building a network. I do highly recommend, and I don't know if there's a new reiteration of the book, but the old one's still really good, to read Never Eat Alone. That book changed my life. And after that, once a week, I would have lunch with a complete stranger. I don't care if I read about you in a news article. I don't care if somebody said, hey, you ever heard of such and such? They didn't know me from Adam. I shot them an email and I would say, hey, I'm Natasha. I'm looking to meet cool people who's doing cool things. I'm not looking to buy anything. I'm not looking to sell anything. I just want to have lunch. And I never had a person say no, but it really expanded my network. And you didn't have to live in my city. If it was over the phone and we chatted for 20 minutes, that was fine. But I feel like that took me the furthest.
Absolutely, definitely. Networking is so crucial. Not only is that how you get to know about other opportunities, but that's just really how you learn from lived experience and talking with people, but also when networking, really knowing yourself, and I think knowing your strengths. I think it was mentioned, if you're not the most technical leader, maybe that's when you outsource. That's when you learn to reach out. If, writing or strategizing is not your thing, reach out to those who can help you in that fashion so you can really, set yourself up for success. But definitely knowing your strengths, knowing what you're able to offer, and then even knowing, where you might need a little bit extra help, so that you can get that extra help and don't be afraid to get that extra help, which also comes with the networking. Definitely not being afraid to say I need help.
It's so critical. And just, to showcase the power of networking, I think all of you here on this panel are people who we've either reached out, networked, I've reached out to you, you've reached out to me, and we've been able to establish that connection. And I'm just, again, so grateful to have had you all here. Does anybody real quick before we turn it over to Dr. Williams want to come off mute and ask a question to our panel? Or any last words from our panel?
I just want to say thank you all for being here. I was just like, I connected with some folks on LinkedIn and I'm like trying to jot down all these gems. So this was great. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. And it's super, super fun to be alongside Savannah and Natasha. I've heard of the Lioness, of course, and Innovation Women, and I'm just very grateful to be in your company.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. I'm so inspired by listening to you both. So definitely love to connect further. And yeah, thank you so much again.
Thank you all so much. And with that, I'm going to, I'm going to fix my document. I received a message about that, but thank you all so much. I appreciate you. And now I'm going to turn it over to, I'm going to remove spotlights. You're still all spotlighted in my heart, but I won't remove your spotlights. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Williams. Thank you so much for being here. And sorry, the multitasking. I don't want to be spotlighted. Dr. Williams, feel free to come on and I will spotlight you.
I totally get multitasking. So good evening, everyone. I apologize for being late. We had a program that ended exactly at 5 o'clock, but I just thank you, Hope, and also Chris for this opportunity. A little insight, Chris and I attended BAPS and we're classmates. So it's just great to be here. And it's also great to talk to people within my community to just share the different things that I'm working on. So I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see my screen? Is it okay, Hope?
Yes, we can see.
All right, good. So happy Women's History Month. And what I do, we celebrate women every single day of the year. So it's interesting when we come to these special events when there's even like Black History Month or Women's Day. It's like, this is what we do every single day. So I know I'm in between all of us having supper, dinner, whatever you call it, or whatever you do in the evening. So I will definitely try to make my presentation very, very quick, and then also open it up for questions. But what I want to do is start off with the picture of my parents. And as we talk about and we celebrate Women's History Month, I think about my parents. My parents moved to Springfield in the early 70s after my father was disabled after serving 2 tours in Vietnam. And when he came to Springfield, he could not find suitable employment to support him and his lovely bride, my mom, as they tried to have a family. And my parents, and particularly my mom, took a big risk. I say my mom took a bigger risk than my dad because she was a nurse. She's quit her job, and my parents started a beauty supply business in the back of their trunk. And I know many of you have been to Springfield long enough, you've probably heard of Williams Beauty Supply. And starting a business, new to the community, African-American couple, starting a beauty supply business in the 70s in Western Massachusetts was no easy feat. And they definitely had the grit. My mother is, she's from Brooklyn. She still claims that she's from Brooklyn. My father's from South Carolina. But when I think about entrepreneurship, of the risk, we just heard about taking the risk, jumping out there, saying if they failed. But my parents saw something, they saw an opportunity. And I think and as entrepreneurs, that's what we go after. We see these great opportunities and we take these huge risks. And what's important is that you definitely have to do something that you love and that you're passionate about. And as we celebrate Women's History Month, I just think about the different things my mom had to sacrifice and give up to support a family-owned business. So I start with that. And then I just want to continue with my journey. So it's interesting, graduating from high school, went to Cathedral. My father told me I was going to Babson College and I better get in. So there I was. I went to Babson, graduated undergrad in '94. Now I returned back. I'm back in 2015 after I received my doctorate. And it's just interesting how my path really came full circle of growing up in a family-owned business. I do have a great experience in the industry. My last corporate job was working for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, but just going back to really my roots of family-owned businesses. I wrote my dissertation on family-owned businesses around talent management and retention. But most importantly, what was instilled in me as a young person is definitely community and also hard work. Growing up in Springfield, I was fortunate to be part of many great youth programs that really gave me great leadership skills. Working in my parents' business definitely gave me the foresight about management, time management, working hard, interacting with different people. And it's bringing me back to what I do at Babson. So at Babson, I'm Director of Global Initiatives. And what does that mean? I oversee all of our accelerator programs. So COVID has definitely put a halt of me traveling around the world, which is okay, but using the technology, I'm able to meet more people internationally all over the world. And these are some of the projects that we're working on. Our Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership works with our students. We have like a mentorship program and leadership program for our Babson students. Also, our Win Global programs are all of our accelerator programs. So we had physical sites in Boston and also Miami, but we work with corporate sponsors as well to build out unique programs, such as the Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program that we launched last year, the fall, that I'm gonna talk a little bit about in a few minutes. And then we also partner with international nonprofits to help them build out their accelerator program. And then we also have a research arm. Because one of the things, we work really hard around entrepreneurship and accelerators, but it's great to have the content and the case studies to go along with that. Because as we celebrate Women's History Month, there's definitely still a gap in the literature when it comes down to women entrepreneurship. As we're using case studies in our classrooms or using examples. So we're definitely trying to fill that gap through our Diana International Research Institute. So some of the challenges that women face, and we heard that from the panelists, so I definitely give you kudos. So I'm not gonna kind of repeat all the great things that they were sharing, but one of the things that we found in the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership is that the challenges that women face, particularly around starting businesses, lack of access to capital, networking, and also mentorship. We incorporated that in incorporated all of these kind of hurdles within our programs to ensure that all our participants are heavily equipped after they graduate from our program, that they can combat the biases that are in the workplace. We still have a lot of work to do, not only Babson, but also our community as far as closing the wealth gap. When we talk about access to capital, In my role, I'm able to talk to a lot of people, trying to identify people to give capital to. But I really talk to these leaders around how is your team really equipped? Because you have these millions of dollars, you have all this money, and then you're talking to these entrepreneurs, particularly female, and if they're a woman of color, there's another kind of onion peel that you have to peel back, is that looking at their internal team of, do you have diversity on your team when you're looking at supplying these money to these individuals? Because sometimes that what I found is that great businesses are overlooked for these opportunities because the people that are trying to give out the money don't have a diverse team and they don't understand the industry or the business that the individual is in. And as far as networking, I think we as individuals were comfortable within our own circles, but giving people access to our network so they can expand their businesses are key. So when we're identifying coaches to be part of our program, one of the things we ask them is to share with their mentee their network, their access, so they can continuously grow their business. And definitely entrepreneurship education. So, there's so many colleges, and I see some are represented on the call today. There's so many colleges that offer entrepreneurship, and many people are, cannot afford to go to college. So I'm just grateful for programs like Babson and also VVM that offers great entrepreneurship education to people in the community. So I want to talk a little bit about the Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program. So this was 2 years in the making. So this wasn't something we kind of came up with living in this kind of dual pandemic. Before joining the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership, I was running the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses team for Babson. I was the liaison between the foundation and the college. And what I found that there was a lack of focus on one of the fastest growing segments, fastest growing groups in America, which are the Black women entrepreneurs, and really looking at the early stage businesses. What we found is that within this group of entrepreneurs is that they were kind of left out of not only access to entrepreneur education, but going back to the networking, access to capital, the mentorship that others were being provided. So we started the Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership in the fall. We were oversubscribed, but I really wanted to have the opportunity to really meet the needs and the unique challenges that Black women are facing here in the United States. And we say, why not Babson? We're #1 in entrepreneurship. No, we're not highly diverse, but we're making those little changes. But what we really sought out to do is look for women entrepreneurs that have these kind of unique businesses that don't really fit in any certain box. So we're industry agnostic, but we've really focused on these businesses that are really unique and that are scalable. And then offer the opportunity for them to have platform opportunities and connect them to different funding sources as well. But one of the things that really struck me from our research, and I'll talk about I'll do the mission and I'll talk about the research next. The mission of Be Well is to be a resource partner to many organizations. So we're just not in this silo of just, this is Babson, we're not working with anyone else, but we're working with several foundations and also banks. So we can really help Black women entrepreneurs start, grow, and scale their business. And again, this is the number that shows like African-American women-owned businesses are growing by 164%. Even in the pandemic, we are still the fastest growing group. We're creating jobs. And this comes from different ways. Sometimes we're starting these new jobs to supplement our income. We're starting these jobs because we want to feel happy outside our 9 to 5. So there's a lot to do with that growing number. But one of the things that was really striking that we found in the data, even though we're the fastest growing group, we're the lowest when it comes down to revenue. And we're definitely, when I say we, Babson, we're definitely trying to change that, where the average revenue is $24,000. When you look at the non-minority group, it's $218,000. And then also employment. We're really starting solo businesses. So we're teaching these entrepreneurs of how to grow and scale their business. So going back to the data, what the data shows is that if the playing fields were equal amongst non-minority groups, and I'm putting all minority women into one bucket here, comparing to the non-minority groups, if we gave them the same equal access to capital, education, and network, in the US, we can increase the revenue by $981 billion. That means we all eat, everybody does well, and there's new job opportunities in the United States. And that is remarkable. So I came across this quote by Dale Gines, and he said that, women are, as entrepreneurs, we're creating, our business as we're, jumping off the cliff. We get that. But Black women are doing this with a toothpick and a napkin. So it goes back to limited resources that we're provided. This is our kind of secret sauce really quick. I know we're at time, but this is our secret sauce. And one of the things that I really pride myself on is all the programs that we do, we bring them all into a fold of having this sisterhood and this bond and being part of a global network, and also infusing Babson's renowned pedagogy. And if I can leave you all with just a few tidbits of as you're building out your ecosystem, and as I was coaching someone this week, I really went through the different all these different terms and what they really mean. And I'll just do that very quickly. And I think, I know all businesses need this to be successful. Definitely a coach that's going to help you navigate through the process. So if you're in an accelerator program, you're trying to get through a business deal, you definitely need a business coach, but also a mentor who has been in the same seat that you've been in, but they're a little bit higher, so they've had that experience. A sponsor that can speak on your behalf and kind of open doors for you. You also need a team. Someone talked about you need somebody to get stuff done, so you just can't do it all. You definitely need a team. Definitely having an advisory board to make sure that you're aware and conscious of everything that's going on, and you can get those extra expertise somewhat for free. And then also have your tribe. You definitely need a tribe of people that's going to cheer you on and be supportive along the way. And I'm going to end with, this is a picture of my tribe. This is a picture at my birthday. They risked their lives taking a picture with me last year, but this is my tribe. So I thank you for your patience. And I don't know if we have any time for questions, Hope, but thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. It was so amazing to have you. Does anybody have any questions? I know we're at time, so but if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask Dr. Williams, feel free to come off mute.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Greg. Hey, Greg. All right.
Hello there.
Hey. Well, I'm around. I'm from Western Mass, and I never left. So anything I do and all the jobs I've had, I've always tried to have some input into Western Mass, particularly Springfield. Thank you, Heather. All right.
Thank you so much.
All
We
right,
really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome.
All right, so that concludes our program today. Chris, do you have anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up?
No, other than a special thank you to everyone who showed up as a participant, but also to the panel and Shakina in particular for opening our eyes to a lot of things that frankly we should already be aware of, but it's always good when it comes to light, and now we can take action. And I think that's the big takeaway.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. And thank you all again for being here. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to reach out via email, hope@valleyventurementors.org. Thank you again, and sign up for the next community night.